So thanks for everyone for joining today. My name is Cody Cupp. I'm the founder and CEO of UNEE Labs. And what we wanted to share today is really kind of the trifecta when it comes to beautiful data, something that we've kind of coined from Data.World is how we're here to show you today on how we can leverage data cataloging, master data management, data integration and virtualization, alongside presenting that data into beautiful visualizations via the Knowi interface. For years now, UNEE Labs has been in the industrial space working with all types of customers. In particular, we work in the oil and gas and petrochemical spaces focused on different types of applications. But what it really comes down to is we try to drive high-value analytic applications within our customer base. As our customers come to us and ask for different types of complex business questions, we have a group of folks internally that need to deliver those solutions. We work with anywhere from front-end developers, back-end developers. We use user experience designers, and most importantly, we have our group of mathematicians that run through algorithms, building all types of models that are required to kind of answer those questions that our customers are asking for. But at the end of the day, once we put all these data sets together, we build all the models, we still need to visualize those in something usable, something we can tell a story around when it comes to data. And that's where we're at today. What we're going to run through is really kind of how these three companies, Knowi, UNEE Labs, and Data.World, work together to kind of present this beautiful data set. In this case study, we're looking at an IoT-based solution in a petrochemical liquid storage terminal facility and how they use data analytics to better manage their utilities within their facilities. And those utilities are not just electricity, but we look at nitrogen, steam, gas, and water, all types of utilities that are used in order to store and manage a little bit over 144 types of different chemicals that are stored throughout the facility. So we'll get started there. As I mentioned, my name is Cody Cupp, founder and CEO of UNEE Group. Within that, we have our kind of R&D section, which is UNEE Labs. It's something that we're starting to kind of build upon more as we go through different types of digital transformation with our clients. We started about 5 years ago. This is actually my second technology startup. It's something that we found that was needed in the market, is kind of bridging disparate data sources into nice, clean data graphs in order to present all types of applications. And when we talk applications, we talk everything from analytic applications on up to maybe custom applications, data capture, even do some mobile app development if need be, if we have to curate that data into the platform. Jay, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thank you, Cody. Hello, everybody. My name is Jay Gopalakrishnan. I'm founder and CEO of Knowi. Knowi was founded in 2014 now, so 5 or 6 years ago. And our whole premise is this concept of unified analytics platform, and which is to say that we can connect into data from Data.World, so we have native integration to Data.World, and also your on-premise data as well as other places, and then have a way to query, visualize, analyze, and then embed and create data-driven products very quickly. And part of this presentation, we'll take a look at the tail end of this is to have those things in action for this real use case that Cody was talking about around tracking nitrogen and steam and gas usage and associated revenue from it as well. Back to you, Cody.
Okay, thank you. So as we go through this, and as we mentioned, where UNEE sits is we're the integrator, the consultant, and the developer that works with our client base to kind of develop these kind of portfolio of applications. We've done anywhere from operational analytics to help drive utilization on vessel and jetty occupancy, into wastewater management components, and now along this lines around doing IoT data analysis and actually data capture as we go into it. We've been a very early adopter of the technology within Data.World, even pre-Data.World. There's data virtualization technology that we invested in years ago, about 5 years ago, that was recently acquired by Data.World through a company called Capsena. And that data virtualization toolkit is what we use to bring disparate data sources into nice, clean, governed data sets that sat in graph databases. So we've started this quite some time ago, and even got into this business even before graphs were cool. But as we continue to bring these data sets in there, there's always a need to help visualize what we've built and what our customers are looking for on a regular basis. How did we turn these clean, beautiful data sets into something that's actually usable? And that's where Knowi comes into play. So you can see in the areas that we play and where these components work out well in the industrial space. When I talk about maritime, sustainability management, asset optimization, and supply chain, there's similarities across the board, and this is where we work best. So it's something we call our knowledge engine. It's productized internally by series, but it really is a stack. And we kind of looked at best of breed when it came to building this stack. And as I mentioned, Data.World's a big component of that for master data management, data dictionaries, and cataloging, giving us the ability to bring disparate data sources in, create usable data sets, and something that, again, we'll mention and kind of coin over and over again, but we really do create beautiful data, and that's been stolen from Capsena and Data.World. And then finally, the icing on the cake, as it were, is Knowi. So we create the data sets, we help kind of curate and govern that data into something usable, and then we use Knowi to help us visualize that and some of the toolkits therein. So we'll get into how we used it in particular for this IoT project. Data.World, as I mentioned, has kind of a plethora of toolkits that we leverage. One of them is the data virtualization component, where we're able to bring in relational sources, map those into what we call ontologies that fit into the graph world. And it's all based on something we call business vocabulary. So it's actually the business is telling us how they want their data to look within the graph. That's one area. Once it enters into the master data management component of Data.World, we're able to kind of continually manage, monitor, and govern those data sets on a regular basis. So we always need to keep clean data in place in order for it to continue to be used by our clients and whatever those stakeholders may be. And they're typically not technical stakeholders, but rather business stakeholders. So that helps us integrate different data sets. You can see some of the integrations here that we deal with, built on top of knowledge graphs, and gives us real insight and collaborative toolkits around that data source. Then once we've gone through, created our data sets, kind of go through these exercises of creating and curating clean data, then it's time to help visualize it. What are our clients going to be using on a daily basis? How they can get active analysis out of that. And that's where Knowi comes into play. Integrated right into the Data.World toolkit, we're able to seamlessly build visualizations and dashboards on the fly based on the data sets that we have, and then still continue to collaborate on those, right? So we're always tracking lineage, we're always tracking and maintaining, or I guess documenting what's occurring with the data sets, how people are using them, who's using them, and are they good? And when I say are they good, that kind of sounds simplified, but really we just need to make sure that they're usable data sets going forward. We don't want to present bad data sets on a continual basis and then nobody end up using it. So that's really around tracking the lineage. And that gives us the ability then to launch Knowi under this unified visualization and analytics platform. Now, Jay, do you want to add anything here as we go through this?
No, thank you, Cody. Yeah, I think that was a pretty good summary there of how Knowi fits in.
Okay. So for us, the value ultimately just becomes a one-stop shop, right? So once the data is there on the Data.World side, it's literally click a button from one of the integrations that we have available to us, and Knowi's that primary integration for these types of apps. So at the end of it, you know, some of it's a little bit tough. I know there's a lot of white noise out there when people talk about analytics and business intelligence in general. Everybody's trying to crank it up around artificial intelligence and machine learning, which is still available from a lot of this. The other nice aspect of Knowi is there is actually some integration around natural language processing and machine learning, which kind of helps us drive towards looking at patterns within the data, which is always something that helps us on both the governance side as well as helps the client understand what's occurring with their data and how they need to manage it. And so that's kind of key. And having all that in one space, one spot, is saving us a ton of money. We're investing in the technology to kind of help even our people internally better deploy our projects. So I can honestly say from a business owner perspective, instead of going out and hiring additional data modelers, we mostly focus around our knowledge engineers and finding the right people around that really understand complex business models and math models. That helps us, frees us up. Having a platform like this, an integrated platform like this, kind of frees us up to focus on those type of resources instead of just going through legacy kind of data lake type engagements, which also ultimately ends up saving our clients money and saves them in two ways. We're able kind of speed to market with them internally, right? So we build these data sets. We are up and running in a matter of days rather than months, and which cuts the cost out of that as well, and then helps them kind of realize their ROIs faster. So if we can get to answering business questions sooner rather than later, the impact for them is quite substantial. So that's the model we've adapted, and in order to kind of continue down that model, we need everything integrated, and that's what Knowi and Data.World does for us. So as far as the case study goes, we'll get into that. We're going to do a live demonstration of Knowi. Jay will walk us through that. I'll provide some color as it pertains to what the data means and as we go through it. But from a simplest form, this is what we call the smart meter project, where we tie in IoT-based data from smart meters. And the meters are tracking anywhere, like I mentioned, from electricity, nitrogen, steam, and natural gas. The impact that this has for providing more visibility and transparency around the usage of those utilities within this facility, this client facility of ours. It actually has twofold impact. One, on the bottom line, there's a cost obviously that goes into a lot of these utilities and how they use them. So eliminating waste and kind of understanding how they can best utilize those utilities from their providers, where their providers sell them things like electricity and the nitrogen and the natural gas that feeds the steam. Those are all costs that need to be accounted for. So kind of optimizing those goes right to the bottom line. The second aspect of it is these are also services. These utilities are a revenue stream, a very large revenue stream for this facility. So as part of the service that this customer provides their own clients, they're able to charge for those utilities and get reimbursed for them with a nice little profit margin if they do things well and kind of optimize those components. So you can see where we can look at both the top line and bottom line revenue. So having said all that, kind of gone through it and set the stage, we'll start now. I can start with the Data.World aspects of it. I can go through and show our boards a little bit here to what I can without giving away too much of the client side of things, and then we can go right into the Knowi components.
Sure, Cody. Yeah, go for it. So this is I've pulled up the Data.World screen with the two data sets here, Cody, and I'll hand it over to you to just go through the data set itself.
Sure. So again, these are mocked up for this purpose today. So these are some data readings where we look at a couple of data sources. Both of these are in Excel format, like I'd mentioned before. We also have data sets that come directly in via API into Data.World, and then from there we start doing some queries and building queries and data sets that are specific to the questions being asked by our clients. We go through it, very simple. It's a nice clean interface. It helps you kind of go through and understand what your data sets look like. You can see here that it did a nice conversion of an Excel spreadsheet for the multiple tasks, so nitrogen, electric, steam, gas, as we go through each one of them. Here we have some different meter names, locations. We put GPS coordinates because we map everything out into, it's a very large facility. The types of meters, analog, mechanicals that are out there. Most everything is now going into the digital, the smart meters. The project overall was to really convert existing legacy infrastructure into these smart meters and start providing IoT-based data coming into our application. On the right-hand side, you start seeing what's going on with this file, right? So it was last updated about 6 days ago, who the owner was, which is our group, UNEE Labs. There's different collaborators and people that can be done to it. There's some inspections. So if you click on the inspections, Jay, and the nice thing about Data.World, it starts going through and kind of looking at potential issues within your data. So again, that governance standpoint is there for you to kind of go through. Instead of manually pulling in these Excel spreadsheets and try to cleaning out, it gives you a good baseline of what could be a problem. Now, once you do your analysis and you go through these, it may not be the case, and there you would just dismiss them. You know, if there's a lot of nulls and you expect those nulls or something along those lines, you really start kind of going into and understanding what this data looks like. I know it's cliche, but bad data in is bad data out. So the beautiful piece of Data.World is kind of helping you curate that. You can click done there, Jay, and we'll go into, we can add labels and descriptions. We really start kind of tracking the lineage and putting some real content around these data sources as well. So any collaborator or anybody that you invite in to look at these data sets, you can start documenting those components. In that bottom right-hand corner, you start also, or you have the ability to also start building out a data dictionary. So there's lots of times we go into clients, they plug into data sources, they look at fields and they have no idea what those fields are trying to tell them, what the labels are. They're usually created by some kind of technical resource, a database administrator. It's hard to really kind of understand what that is. So here you start creating that data dictionary and kind of understanding what those data sets are. So if you look at the top left-hand corner where it says data dictionary as well, there's a shortcut on the right-hand side, but here you do the data dictionary and you can see the types, and then you would start going in and editing each one of these components to add those descriptions on kind of where they're at. And this, again, is really around documenting the data set and making it available to whoever has access to it. Go ahead and click home there on the top left hand. So from when you're at home, when you've created a project like this, there's other ways to connect data sets, um, add your own files, and then continue to write summaries on what you're working on. So it tracks whoever logs in and contributes on these pieces of this data set. And that way you know that you're no longer working in a vacuum when it comes to this. That's another problem, is it typically goes off. It's very behind the scenes work to kind of create these data sources for people to use for nice business intelligence platforms. But when it comes down to it, if anything needs to change, update, you're always battling the stale data paradigm. It's nice to have what's occurred, who's working on this data set, and comments on these data sets to better understand that you truly are using using the correct data set, or using a data set to the best of its capabilities. Another nice piece of the Data.World component is, if you really want to get into it, is click on the connect data sets. You can, I'm sorry, or connect, and in the middle it says or connect. There you go. So here we could connect data from anywhere. So kind of, again, upload from your computer. You can see there we have Excel data sources. You can explore many other data sources from integrations like Google Drive, Salesforce, some other areas there. But then you link a Data.World data set, and there's hundreds of thousands of data sets on Data.World today that we can go into it. So if you look at my library, if I had a data set that was available to us, I would have one here. But go ahead and click on the Data.World community. What it starts looking for are things that are similar to the data set that you uploaded. So we uploaded smart meters, and Data.World automatically went out and started looking for potential content that may be relevant to us, or it may not be. But since we have geodata of certain applications, amplifiers, you can kind of see some things there. And you can start searching for data sets. So if I search for a data set, say on the utility side, so yeah, go ahead. Utility company customer service responses. You can see shared data sets throughout and who it is. US Open Data Portals for data.gov, things like that, Department of Energy. There's all kinds of things I can start integrating. So I can start looking to really have some impactful things on both internal and external data sets if my client really wanted to get into it. For example, one of the things we look at here is weather. On our production side of this application, we need to understand what's occurring in from a weather perspective, and then also look to weather almanacs and predictions that are coming down the pipe. A lot of these products need to be stored at certain temperatures. Some of them are stored at ambient temperature, as low as 72 degrees, 70 degrees, on up to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. And so we need to understand how the weather is going to impact our utility usage, as just one example. So you can kind of see what the power of this would be, and for any client out there, anybody trying to answer some complex business questions, that maybe even data sources that they don't have internally, that can kind of help them do a better job of answering those questions. So we can close that out. We'll go back to the project files. And now from here, the other nice piece about being integrated and having these integrations published within the data is that button right to the right, top right hand, it says open with Knowi. So from here, once we have the data sets established, we've kind of done some queries even. You can see some of that in the nitrogen, or we just have raw data sets. And we do this a lot. We'll bring in raw data sets, we'll kind of confirm them here, build our data dictionary, but then we'll use actually Knowi also to help us do a lot of data governance. So let's go ahead and get into the Knowi component, Jay, and we'll bring up some of this. So right from here, based on the integration that you have, so I have the user already logged in. We've created some of our data sets as we've gone through. The integration's nice and easy. You have the project there, the UMS analysis, which it is pulling. I didn't have to enter. It pulls directly from Data.World. If we have published data sets or queries, we'll be able to have those. So in this instance, we're going to be pulling a file, which we've kind of pre-done already. And then we can actually start hitting preview and working with the data almost immediately as we go through this. So Jay, if you want to take it from here based on some of the dashboards and the widgets that have already been created, and then we'll go through it.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Cody. Yep. So, so what we've got so far is we've connected Data.World data sets and done a quick, did a quick query on that just to see what the data looks like. So let me go into some of the dashboards we created yesterday on this use case. So Cody mentioned earlier, these are meters that are physical locations reading key readings, right? For nitrogen levels, if I'm saying that correctly, Cody, or electricity, steam, and so on. So the first visualization here, if you notice on the data set, we had a location as part of that information in the data set itself. And what we've taken is to take that out as lat and long within Knowi, and then put a map around it to say what the locations are, where the locations are. So and you can also do the specific types of meters that you can slice and dice by. So if you're looking at, say, things like things with a BD prefix, which stands for, is it board dock? Is that correct, Cody? And
yeah, close. It's barge dock.
Barge dock. Oh, I'm sorry. And what does that do exactly?
So through the barge docks here, there's two types of vessels that bring products in and out of this facility, right? So we have the large vessels that you can kind of see there, tankers that you probably notice. Even alongside that tanker, the little flat red thing is actually the barge itself. So on a smaller scale, these are usually single product vessels that come in and out.
Interesting. Got it. Thank you. And so then on in the two data sets, one of the data sets had meter readings going back for last 10 years or so. And what we've done is just basically have a meter reading on aggregate by month and plotted that in a chart form here. Right, so you have on the x-axis on a time scale for the last few years, along with your steam, gas, nitrogen, and the rest of it. And there's a couple of things that immediately comes to mind. One is that why is there such a spike in around January of 2017? So if you then wanted to do some investigation, what we also did was set up drill downs from that. So it's basically just working off that data set, the two data sets that we are querying against Data.World. So if you look at steam, and then if you look at gas, you can see that there is a big spike for steam, right in the early part of 2017. So then you can start drilling down and understanding why that might be. So you can see these spikes happening on there just for a few days, and then it sort of dies out. And again, so this is for that month for steam. What is that reading? What is the average reading for on a daily basis? So let's say we take this spike and then do another drill down to say what constituted the readings for that day for that steam utility type. And you can see immediately that there is there's this TK734, which seems to be for that specific day. Let's also do another check to see if it's the same one. So that's also seems like it's the same meter with the highest reading. Why do you think that might be, Cody?
Yeah, there's kind of a couple things that we've found over the time as we've gone through this data. One, that is somebody left steam running where they were cleaning out some aspect of the infrastructure that was associated to that tank, and so they just left it running. An operator did. Or there's large moves and needs going on. So the product that's stored, what ended up being in this instance, the product that was stored there, since it was in January, it was a cold day in January, or cold time. It takes about a week to 2 weeks just to crank up, um, sometimes heat up certain products depending on the size of the tank. So in this instance, we found that it was actually going to be a large transfer of the product onto a very big vessel, and there was a lot of product that needed to be heated because it was cold, and therefore the steam. So we confirmed that it was actual legitimate usage of the steam rather than bad data or somebody screwed up and left the steam run.
I see, understood. And also the other anomaly we were looking at was gas. So there are a couple of spikes here. And if you look at, say, gas, this one, let's do. So there's a spike here in January, and it seems like it's the FL 700 styrene might be the one that's contributing the biggest factor to that. And any reasons on why that might be?
Yep. So from, excuse me, from that perspective, so the FL is a flare. So if anybody's ever seen stacks that are blowing fire out of the top of them in some of these environments, that's a flare. And so they're burning off VOCs and contaminants that they that may be storing within these types of facilities. So it's an environmental impact that they have. So under permits, they're allowed to burn off so much of these contaminants or the VOCs that they collect. And so watching and understanding those spikes, making sure again that it's a legitimate use of this asset, which is the flare. And if they go over, we looking at the difference. We look at those spikes just to confirm, because if we do go over, or if we're using the flare outside the permit, then that is an EPA violation, which they could get fined for. So this is around compliance when we look at things like this.
I see. Got it. Thank you. So just to summarize here then, so we've taken some Data.World data, data sets within Data.World, done some visualizations on it with drill downs, and correlating some of what we're seeing on that data to real world things that are happening, right? And then one of the other things correlated to what Cody mentioned was also anomaly detection. So you have tons of meters, quite a lot of meters here that may cause some signals or readings that either spike occasionally, or maybe even on the other side, not return any data at all. And what are some of the use cases around that? So in this dashboard here, we've created an anomaly chart. And what you can do with Knowi also is to systemize this, where you can create anomaly detection models using machine learning for time series data, and then have triggers and alerts based off that. So if you have a meter that you expect certain cadence from that having algorithms that can run against it, that you can choose to say, I want anomalies to be driven for these meters that are sent in some ways to take some action on. And from a visualization standpoint, so what we've done here is we've taken a meter here and then say, it's BD1 in nitrogen. As you can see, there's certain set pattern for the reading, but then it abruptly drops off here. Would you say there are any specific reasons for this, where it was out for 6 months here, Cody, for this one?
Yeah, and this is where we use it to kind of manage the infrastructure. So in this instance, this barge dock is a high volume meter, which means that just a lot of nitrogen runs through it based on different customers and vessels that come in and out. So in this instance, the meter broke. So two things ended up happening. One is they bypassed the meter to continue to operate, which is basically now we're unable to track the amounts that they went through. The which could affect our costs. And then two, we were out for way too long. So it's the internal operations team has to go back and look at this, and to their maintenance team and say, hey, why did we not get this meter swapped out if we knew it was broken? Or did you even know it was broken? So we look for things like that to kind of tell us if there's actual problems in the infrastructure to them. And then finally, though, what we can do is there are ways to correlate. If we do have some of this trend analysis that's coming back from it, at least we know from a historical standpoint that we should be in some range. As long as there's not any big spikes, you can kind of see here over time that we had a kind of steady increase, even though it spiked there after October 19th or October 2019. At least we can get an idea of what our cost should look like, and then we can go back to our nitrogen provider and we can look at other areas to make sure that we're being billed accordingly and it doesn't affect us too much. But yes, it's in this instance that we're seeing here, this would be used for infrastructure management.
Great, thank you, Cody. So the next, Cody, what we discussed yesterday was around predictions on some nitrogen data, and that will help you with cost analysis. So let's take a crack at doing that, and it will also showcase some of the other ad hoc capabilities within Knowi using your data sets here too. So I'll create a new dashboard, call it, say, ad hoc analysis for nitrogen, and just grab the raw readings and plonk it in here. And also add some filters along the way too. So the filter is just a way to slice and dice it. So be interested for that cost predictions for the, you don't care for 2008 data. It's really more in the last couple of years. So let's do 2017 to say October 31st. So we got this raw data for that data set. And then let's, within Knowi, there's this capability to do natural language processing, which is this ability to ask it plain English questions and give you the answers back. So in this case, what we want to do, what I'm trying to do here is, what is the average monthly readings for nitrogen across all meters? And from that, can I then predict what is expected to happen over the next couple of months based on the historical data? All right, so the ability to ask natural questions against that data. So let's say you have this data set where you have the meter readings along with the questions you want to ask. What is the monthly readings on an average basis for nitrogen, for example? So say let's take average reading on a monthly basis. What does that look like? So based on the data, we can figure out that the average reading on a monthly looks like this. You can immediately visualize that. So if I'm looking at it from just in a column, simple column chart, there's about 30 different options to visualize this data. And then you can start also for just interested in nitrogen, right? So let's add that to the NLP. So, and it will tell you how it's done the calculation too. So you got average reading on a monthly basis for nitrogen, and let's put this as a column chart, and save it as its own visualization here too. So let's do month of that, and no, clone this as a separate chart. So we call this nitrogen readings. So we've created this view from that raw data from Data.World that tracks your monthly nitrogen usage, right? So let me put this also back to, I made a typo here, make that 31st of 2019, not 2020. So we don't, the readings here are not complete. So this gives us a good baseline for what the readings for nitrogen looks like. So if you want to do some predictions on top of this, let's create another visualization that gives you the predictions as well on top. And what you can do within Knowi is you can either do predictions with machine learning, which is a workspace that Knowi provides you with. You can also do time series predictions just on the fly too. So in this case, we want to add another step to the mix and then just add a function, which is in this case called predict. And the field we want to predict is average reading. And then the start date for the prediction, let's do it 2019. So we have 2019's data along with the future data set, data items too. So, and then let's do a monthly increments for the next 3 months. So if we've got this right, call this predicted. What we'll have is this is historical data from 2019. This is what the predicted values for nitrogen is. And we want to put this in a separate visualization too, right? So we'll put this along with the predicted. So you have your historical data along with the predictions and save this as and then you basically have a list of your historical data and the trends associated with the historical data along with your future predictions for nitrogen. And you can also do this not just across all meters, which is what this is doing. You can also do this for a specific meter name as well. So you can just focus on BD04 if you like, and then have that just for that meter itself that you can do predictions on just by adding a filter on. And that about sums up a quick demo of Knowi. So just to summarize, we've connected to Data.World natively. It's a one-click integration from Data.World, and query those data sets, created ad hoc visualizations from it, along with some canned visualizations with geolocations and so on. And then just to put a complete picture of what's happening on the ground with these sensors and correlating with some real-world business use cases, along with projections from that data too. With that, I'll hand it back over to you, Cody, to wrap up.
Yeah, so thanks, Jay. So that was perfect. So as you can see, having it integrated closely into Data.World gives us the ability to kind of quickly build these types of dashboards, but it really comes down to how quickly can we deploy something like this to get our clients the answers that they're looking for. And as always, the faster the better. That we've seen too many times that business intelligence and data analysis projects just take too long, because it's always the 80-20 rule, right? A lot of that time is spent just curating the data, trying to get it to where it's usable, cleaning it up, and then you spend the back half of those projects kind of visualizing it. We're taking a different approach where we can get nice clean data sets into Data.World. We theoretically start visualizing it with the subject matter experts almost immediately, and starts really knocking down the time to value at that point. And then if we're able to, as it showed earlier, just click on Knowi and start visualizing based on those data sets that everybody's agreed to, then we start kind of getting a lot of aha moments. And that's what it's ultimately up for, or that's what we ultimately target. And it just keeps going from there. The quicker we can answer one or two business questions, the quicker we can start moving on to other items that they look for. So that's about it from it today. Thanks again for everybody joining and listening to the webinar. Hopefully this makes sense, and hopefully you'll start incorporating this process into your own projects.
Thank you very much, Cody.